Okay, for our, well, this is actually going to be second to last video. We are going to be going over the effects menu. There's a wide variety of different effects that you can add in. Some of them are animated, some of them are kind of preset. Not all of them are going to work on the type of layers we're doing, so I'm just going to show you a couple main ones. And just to kind of recap what we've done so far, let's watch our video. So we have position, scale, rotation, skew slide, and color change. So now we want, in order to create a loop, we're going to make all of these disappear. This portion of the animation is going to be up to you to decide what kind of animation techniques you want to use. You can do something as simple as an opacity change. So let's just do a quick, say I just want the position one to fade out. I'm going to be clicking on my position layer. So drop down, going to transform, click on opacity to set a keyframe, because previously we set the keyframe for where we want to end, but now it's going to be fading away. So I want it to stay solid. So I'm going to click on the time watch, so 100%. And I'm just going to do a really quick fade out. So let's go to 10 frames in. And then I'm going to lower the opacity down to 0. So I can just click on it, type 0. So there's a very simple fade out. You can definitely get more fancy with it. We can do things like having them slide out or move out. Again, I'm going to leave this portion up to you. So just hide position for now. So the effects layers I'm going to show you. I'm just going to minimize some of this so it's easier to see. Some of our options, if we go up to effects, I'm not going to go through all of them, but some of the main ones you want to know. A good one is blur and sharpen. So you can make something kind of blur into non-existence. You can play around with color correction more. So if you think about Photoshop, any of the different techniques we used for adjusting photos, they have all of those in here. So you can actually animate things like levels to make a picture get darker or lighter, or add color into certain areas. So there's a lot of really cool image techniques you can play with in here. Distort, you can add ripples, you can magnify portions of an animation, you can make things round. There's just a lot here. Again, I'm not going to go through every single one, and there's many YouTube videos that can go over each of these individually. Generate, you can actually create new material and add it in as a layer. So if I wanted the whole screen to be taken over with a checkerboard, I could apply this in. Again, there's a lot here. You can add noise and grain to it. You can make different objects appear to have perspective to them. So I'll just show one of these real quick. So let's say I have scale selected, and I go into perspective and I make it a sphere. It then applies that layer into a sphere object. Keep going. Simulation, again, these add in kind of new video into your animation. Stylized, think of these as filters that you can see in Photoshop. So you can add on any of those image effects onto it. Let's skip past these. Time. So this is an interesting one because you can actually add things like motion blur onto layers. I'll just kind of back up a little bit so you can see this one being animated. Let's go back to the beginning. So let's just say we want to add this to position. So I'll go in, I'm going to select my position layer, go to effect, time, and say force motion blur. So see this? So motion blur is if an object is moving, it's going to blur it, and then it will stop the blur when it reaches a final position. So you can actually add these on to make all of your layers appear to have more motion to them. And there's a whole bunch of different settings in here. So feel free to look through those, play around with them. So you can also apply it to multiple layers at the same time. So if I click on my top layer, I'm holding down the Shift key on my keyboard and click on the bottom layer. And I go up to Effect, Time, and then Force Motion Blur. Now watch my animation. Now Scale has it, Rotation gets it, and just gives it a little bit more of a realistic movement that your eye would be blurring things due to persistence of motion. So that leaves us to the last couple images. I'm going to go back to animating those. Let's do a blur effect. So I'm going to go to blur. Let's go, what's a good one? Let's just do fast blur. This is the easiest of all of them. They all have different settings, but fast blur really just has 2 settings. So fast, you can, how blurry it is, and then the dimensions. So does it blur out horizontally, vertically? So I'll start off, it's 100 or 0% blurriness. Move forward 10 frames. And then I'm just going to take, oh, I forgot that I had all of them selected. So let's back up a second. Okay, just click on scale, blur, fast blur. Drop it down so I can get my settings. Set my keyframe and move 10 seconds or 10 frames forward, and then blur it until you can't see it. I'm going to, in conjunction with this, also do an opacity change, because even though we can't see it, it's still registering something being there, and it can make some weird image distortions. So I'll go back. I'll do transform, opacity, and then I'm going to drop the opacity down to 0 just to kind of ensure that it completely disappears. Oh, we have our blur out. Other ones that are interesting, let's see, you can do different transitions on them. There's just a lot you can do. So again, I'm not going to go through every single last one of these, but with all the remaining images, I want you to just give it a 10 frame, some kind of animation to make it disappear. Again, you can slide it out, you can blur it, play around with these different effects to see what you can come up with. And when you are done, make sure you click File, Save.